on this episode of Bot vs. Con.
Welcome back, Bot vs. Con fans. As always, I'm Bobby the Bot.
And I'm James the Con, and this is Bot vs. Con, where your voice is heard.
And we are back, but this time with an exciting interview. We are bringing in Ace from Ramen Toy, so sit back. We got a lot of questions from you all, and we're really looking forward to it. So here comes Ace. Stay tuned.
This is Bot versus Con. Make sure to subscribe and consider becoming a member.
All right, so we're back, and first off, I want to say welcome to the show, Ace. How's it going?
Thank you for having me, Bobby and James. It's been good since meeting you back in Toylanta just a few weeks ago, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, back in the groove of things, and thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for coming. It was a pleasure meeting you. I know this is the first time you're meeting James, so James, you want to say hi to Ace there?
Yes, hello, and thank you for coming on. I am a little jealous that Bobby was able to go to that, but you know, it's hard when you live multiple states away. So, yes.
Right. It'll have been like a 5-hour flight for you from California to Atlanta.
Just a flight. Yeah, one way. So
yeah, I did that from.
But that you know, that's what kind of makes our channel fun, though. You get this perspective from all over the country.
Yeah,
it's great.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna go ahead and hop right on into it. So you talked about us meeting at Toylanta. If anything, what do you remember about our initial meeting?
Well, I remember that you came to me and said that you were the initial backer for our 80s Commanders project, which I really appreciate. To see you in the flesh, and of course you were saying that you wanted something to prop on your displays that would reminisce Ramen Toy, and then just nice we had the little display that we had of the logo, and that's yours. So I was happy to actually hand it over to you. Yep.
Thank you very much for that, and I actually want to share with you what I did with it. And so when we finish this recording, I'll show you what I'm working on, and for everyone that's watching, we'll just go ahead and show right now what it looks like. But yeah, that was really, really cool, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So with our show, we do mostly focus on Transformers, and we know that your brand is really 80s oriented, I guess, toy manufacturer. So what is your relationship like with Transformers?
With Transformers?
With Transformers specifically, do you have any memories or anything with?
Well, as a kid, Transformers obviously is part and parcel of a Singaporean boy growing up in the 80s. I watched the TV cartoon. That's on TV, and I see the toys. But unfortunately, I'm not as fortunate as my peers back in the day who has Optimus Prime, Megatron, Starscream. I didn't have a single Transformer toy until my first toy, which is Kickback. I remember it vividly. So, and primarily is because Transformers is a little bit higher priced as compared to other toys, and it just happens that my family wasn't able to afford me Transformers. We were more like in the He-Man range, stuff like that. So my first in vivid memory, I had Kickback as my very first boxed Transformer toy, because they actually sold them as carded as well, right? You have the smaller, cheaper, like aerial bots or combiner cars in blister form, but a more like box version would have been Kickback for me. So yeah, I had Kickback as a kid, and as I grew older, I was able to buy things like Squeeze Play, but again, not the original Headmaster. It is like the mini con Headmaster. Is that right? It's the Headmaster is not as detailed as the original Headmasters. So yeah, those were my vivid recollection of Transformers. Of course, again, I still do not own any of the higher range pieces as a kid, and my closest I had to a Optimus Prime, frankly, was a Kabaya gun kit.
Okay.
So they have all these the buyer kits back in the day from Japan, where they stuck in a chewing gum with a model kit, and that model kit actually was a string down version of G1 Optimus Prime. So that was something that I was closest to, but again, I didn't have it in hand because when I actually picked out the product at the supermarket, as I said, Mom, I'm gonna get this, but she said it's too expensive. All right, I put it back, and then years later, in 2014, almost 9 years ago, I was able to recapture that exact piece made in silk box from a Yahoo Japan auctions for $250. So that's my story.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. You touched a lot of different things that we've actually talked about on the show. I think somebody else we interviewed actually said Kickback was their first Transformer as well.
Okay,
that's kind of cool. So we talked about Transformers, and you mentioned He-Man. I mean, what other toys did you collect as a kid?
Well, I did have a couple of M.A.S.K. So among M.A.S.K, I had Condor, and then my relative actually gave me another Condor for Christmas. So I got two Condors. I got Thunderhawk, I had Piranha, and Switchblade, as well as Firefly. That's about it. Okay. That's about it for me. Yep.
So James didn't collect M.A.S.K. So Condor was a green motorcycle that turned into a helicopter.
Yes.
Really cool. Thunderhawk was the Camaro that had the gold wings that we've seen from Ramen Toy. Piranha was a motorcycle with a little sidecar, and you could jump into the sidecar and it shoot off and be a submarine. And then Firefly was a doom buggy, and Switchblade was the jet that turned into a helicopter, or vice versa. So
that's right.
Yeah.
And among other stuff that I had as a kid was like Starcom, and then like Zoids, and let's see, some Star Wars figures, and Macross. Yep, Macross.
Oh.
Yep, those are, and of course Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters. Those came along much later as I was a little bit bigger. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So out of all of those, what was your favorite toy line as a kid?
Wow. Favorite toy line would have to be He-Man, followed by M.A.S.K. Yep. And of course, again, Transformers has been favorite, but it was a bit out of reach. But I still definitely looked at the catalog every time to Google on what I could buy. Even Kickback had a catalog, so I was like looking at all these things. I couldn't get that, couldn't get this. Omega something like that. Yeah, you just Google at the catalog thing. Yep.
Yeah. So this isn't a question that's on our list, but who's your favorite He-Man character?
He-Man character favorite is, aside from He-Man himself, I would say Roboto and Many Faces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because they got interesting stuff. Because the Many Faces obviously had the faces that turn. That was a feature as a kid you think it's cool. And then for Roboto, as you're moving him from side to side, the mechanism is moving in his body.
Gears.
So I guess as a kid, it's really cool. Yeah.
Really cool. Yeah.
Those are some of my favorites as well, because of the gimmicks. Maybe that's why I like gimmicks so much, is because of those types of things. Okay, so let's get into Ramen Toy. So retro, artistic, modern, 80s nostalgia. Where did that name come from, or like how did you come up with that?
So the name Ramen basically just dates back to when I was like in my early 20s, attending my first Wonder Festival in Japan in the year 2000. So I think I was just 20 years old or 21. So 2000, I was in Japan for Wonder Festival summer, and I was basically there as like fulfilling a dream. As a teenager growing up, I was always looking at all these Hobby Japan magazines, and they always showcase Wonder Festival. For some reason, it's a convention that showcases lots of model kits, garage kits, and stuff like that. And I forgot to mention, as I grew into a teenager, I actually left toys behind for a bit and went into like scale modeling, right? Plastic models, airfix, stuff like that, making aircraft models, tanks, and figurines. So Wonder Festival obviously caught my attention because it was a premier event in Japan that features all these garage kits. So great sculpts by Japanese artists sculpting things like Guyver, Macross, what have you, whatever that in the pop culture. So I attended Wonder Festival, and then I was actually looking to buy this particular super deformed VF1S done by this person called Tanmen, Tanmen. So I was curious as to what Tanmen meant. So I was asking my Japanese friend to ask the Japanese, what it meant. So in response, he just candidly said that it's just because it is the soup noodles that he loves. And I was like, okay, because and not because I'm trying to follow suit, but I do really love Japanese ramen, especially the pork bone tonkotsu flavor. So I'm a big fan of noodles and ramen. So I just thought when I was trying to conceive a name for a toy brand that I could follow in this person's footsteps by naming it in a way that I would have liked it as well. So, but at the same time, I added more beef to the name itself, because when you actually make a ramen, it is not as simple as just haphazardly doing a dish, right? Every special ramen chef or creator creates his own broth and it's signature to his own style. That's why you have followers of ramen going to particular places to experience that particular broth. So in itself, ramen itself is special, right? Every single ramen is special, and then hence we are special with our own broth. We spend time and effort to create it. Hence, what we created with the 80s Commanders, the Machina, and all this stuff. It's all our own little broth. Secondly, when you make the ramen, again, you actually do not just throw everything in. You actually position the noodles onto the bowl. You add the char siu, you add the condiments there. So that's packaging. So we also value a lot on packaging our products so that we present it to you in the best possible manner versus just the figure in a simple packaging. So there is efforts in creating the actual sculpt, creating the product. There's efforts in the packaging, and that's the whole idea of ramen, as not just because I love ramen, but because the actual thing of ramen, contrary to popular belief, that it's actually a cheap product, right? You buy ramen, I'm buying toys this month, so I got to eat ramen because it's cheap. No, on the flip side, it's actually very intricate. It's a lot to go into this process. Of course, the cheap ramen you're talking about is those instant in a bowl. That's not what we are. We are rather this particular thing that I just explained. And then, I sort of went reverse engineering to go back to give each letter and like the acronym. So retro, artistic, modern, 80s nostalgia is what we're doing actually with the products. So that's the whole idea of the name Ramen Toy.
So James, before you go, I love that explanation, because I actually, when I first heard about Ramen Toy, I literally thought, I was just like, why is it so expensive and ramen is so cheap? And I was thinking about, the bag, like when you're in college here, most kids, when they say they're the broke college student, they're eating ramen noodles and they're, it's like you get 20 bags for $1 or something like that, something crazy. But as I got older, I do notice I love ramen, going to restaurants, and every time when you go to like a traditional ramen restaurant or something, it does taste different. And that explanation really explains it, because some are much better than others. And you can tell by how much love and how much care the chef, if not the restaurant, puts into each bowl or each option that they have, and all the different options and stuff. So thank you for that, because that makes a lot of sense to me now.
Great.
Yeah, I was going to say I really thought that was a great explanation too. Sometimes people just say, I named it because I thought it was cool, but like understanding where it came from, it's great. I really enjoyed hearing
and
that.
The packaging is amazing.
It is.
I mean, we talked about that.
It shows. Yeah,
it definitely shows.
So you did say that the company's been around, at least the name has been around for a while. So why don't we say, how long has your company been producing figures or toys?
So, Ramen was conceived way back in the year 2014 when I was setting up on my own to make caliber toys. That's a different story altogether. And then because it's been around since COVID, so we've been around for 4 years. This is actually our 4th year. Next year would be our 5th anniversary for Ramen Toy. Yep.
Awesome.
So what was it that made you say, I want to create toys? Not only create, toys, but from so many different lines. I mean, you cover, Machina, you cover 80s Commanders, there's the Marshall, like there's so many different lines. What, you just mentioned 4 years, almost 5 years, and I think you probably have close to 10 lines or something like that. So, what was the thought process in touching all these different lines of 80s characters?
Well, it actually I got to start the story back to 2005 when I moved from Singapore to Hong Kong. So before that, I was actually doing my own little business in Singapore selling on eBay, right? Surprise, surprise, right? Mm-hmm. So as a eBay seller from the year 2000 to 2005, I was traveling to Japan really often, basically to get the stock, so to speak, right? Buying from Japan, selling on eBay. And then in 2003, I set up a store in Singapore, right? So from selling at the flea markets that you guys actually have in US, like conventions. In Singapore, we don't have conventions here and there. We just have flea markets every Sunday. So I was doing flea market sales, and then, things developed and improved, and I was able to get a storefront. But that didn't actually go too well, because with a storefront, you realize that, oh, wait a minute, it's not as cheap as a flea market that you pay so little every Sunday. You're now paying a monthly rental. Mm-hmm. You're having to pay electrical bills and all these things, and the renovation of the shop. So it became pretty taxing. And basically, it drained up the income that I was making from the sales. So I thought that this wasn't a viable way to carry on. So I moved to Hong Kong. I moved to Hong Kong because I was introduced to a e-commerce site that was selling toys, and I thought that it would be a good transition for me to, instead of working for myself for the past 4 or 5 years, that I would try to work for somebody else. So I did that step. Went to Hong Kong. I was working for Action HQ. It was a American owner-run business in Hong Kong, selling action figures, right? And then the owner actually was good friends with George Son of Toynami, and they basically formed a brand called Pop Box Collectibles, which I was a part of because I was actually helping the company with the R&D, with my skills in scale modeling. I was able to help them like paint stuff, build stuff, etc., etc. So one thing led to the other. Fast forward, I was into the factories with them, making their first product. Back then, it was quite popular, like 12-inch figures. We're all trying to follow in the footsteps of the Medicom Real Action Heroes. So we're trying to make our own stuff, but of course we didn't have the expertise of the Japanese, and then we were making like 12-inch, like more like dolls, right? With half clothing. So I had my experience there, and then so basically you can count my experience with making toys from 2007 up till now, right? So back in the day, making all these action figures, 12-inch, and then the company got the license in Transformers, and we made like simple novelty items like magnet heads and figure carabiners. So very simple stuff, right? But as time go by, I came out on my own in 2014, and I was thinking to myself, what should I do? And I actually got my first license of Age of Extinction. Again, going back to the simple stuff like coin banks, figure carabiners, and then fast forward to before COVID, I was thinking to myself, to my friends, right? Wait a minute, you have all these third-party Transformers stuff. but you don't see any third party for the 80s stuff like Centurions, like M.A.S.K, and all these things, which is not done. So that was when we decided to do these things, and then that was basically the history of it all. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm overly excited over here. I'm just trying to keep it in.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the benefits of having so many properties to choose from?
I believe benefits, it comes with pros and cons, because if we develop a line, and we've heard this from the fans, they would like us to complete the line. I believe that fans are not very happy if we make something and then stop short and not complete the line. But then again, it becomes a business decision, because again, we know that not everything is going to sell. If, for example, we made the Visionaries, the third party Visionaries tomorrow, are we going to do the whole line of Visionaries? Because we are very sure that the rest of the characters, which comprises unique tooling, is not going to sell as much as some of the main characters. So this is always a consideration in terms of making a line. Even Machina, I've also made it clear in my many live streams that even though we want to do this, we might not be able to continue the rest, because if we do everything and then we invest in all the tooling, we might not reap the sales back to make it viable. And our success since inception has been because we have touched on various hot subjects that people like, and then that allowed us the sales, that allow us to have the revenue to carry on the next project. So I'm just being very transparent here that the success is owed to customers supporting what we're doing, but at the same time, we are unable to continue the whole line for most of our stuff. Case in point, 80s Commanders. The first 3 characters was good sales, and then when we started making the hacker, the sales dropped drastically, and we still carried on the antagonist scientist, which is Doc Terror. Pre-orders are up, but again, you can see that on our website, it's still on early bird. Why? Because we haven't even reached the minimum quantity of sales, but we are soldiering on, because not every product is gonna be a home run, but we owe it to the fans to carry on making the stuff as and when possible. So we did not drop Doc Terror. We just chose the right time for us to make the tooling, because from other projects we were able to make enough revenue to put into his tooling so that he can be made, even though we are not making money off this project. So in business, sometimes it's called loss leaders, that you're going to do it anyways. But again, we cannot have too many loss leaders, so otherwise we'll be closing shop really soon. The math, just do the math. Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I've been waiting on my Dark Terror to release. So thank you for that. And we have some other questions down the line that come back to what you touched on. So I appreciate you throwing that little nugget our way, because it is something that myself, but also some of the fans wanted to know. But before we go into that, you talked about 80s Commanders. What was it like for that first run? Like, I mean, you kind of jumped out there, and I was an early backer. It was different. It wasn't the toon aesthetic. It had, like a weathered, feature and stuff like that. Like, what was that like when you was like, okay, we're gonna put this out here. We need backers and to fund this project and everything. Can you kind of walk us through how that experience was like?
So, with anything that we do the first time, there's always going to be some anxiety, what ifs, and all this stuff. But we were quite clear in our delivery to the fans who might support it, right? So we're basically going for people who will like what we're putting up on the table. We're not actually concerned about the people who don't like it. The whole idea was not to do a verbatim of the Centurions, but to do our take on what we feel the Centurions might look like. Something, again, modern, artistic, right? So we're putting a modern feel to the Centurion's framework, adding some realistic elements of weathering, and then that was the whole premise of delivering this third party Centurions. So we felt that we have a strong enough sculpt that would entice people to be interested. Of course, the next step is how credible are we, right? So uh, I basically read the comments, and then some people are saying it's a scam, and then basically the person, the inside of me just couldn't take it. I just got to open up the camera and come on screen and say, hey, it's not a scam. I'm here, right? I'm this guy, and I'm taking your money because you have agreed to support the project, and I'm going to make sure that you're going to get your product. So that was it. It was a bit of luck as well. There's some luck involved, right? There's obviously we had a credible product that people liked. There was credibility in me presenting myself, and then there was the support that came in. So everything just rolled into one. The stars aligned, and we were able to fund this initial project without a Kickstarter, although it was a crowdfund in a sense, because we really didn't have the resources at a point of time other than the funds to create the prototype to actually take us to delivering a product, because we were without any distributors. We were unknown, so we really needed whoever saw the Facebook to come together to say, hey, we could support these people, and then get this out. Again, not everything happens like that for us, for other people, right? There have been many cases of such initiatives being let down, right? Customers were let down, backers were let down, as we all know. So I do understand the risk involved. I do really understand it, but we are different from the next person, the next guy. I don't know how the next guy runs his thing. I don't know how they do it. They run into problems, but that's them. In life, you have the everything. You have all facades of life. You have the guy that was going to scam you from the start. You have the guy who is incompetent because he just can't make it. But we know what we're doing, and then we've since showed that. We let the product do the talking. Yep.
I must admit, I was a little skeptical at first, and then I did see. I mean, I backed it, but then I started seeing you come out and do videos and things like that, and that was really reassuring. I think you are probably the only, not that I collect everything, but the only person that I see come out often and do kind of updates, all the time about what's going on with the product, and I really appreciate that personally. So, thank you for that.
Thank you.
So, do you still collect any of the toys besides what you create? So you already touched upon a few, and that you don't have really any Transformers. Do you have any M.A.S.K or anything? Or do you even have a collection room?
I have a collection room of samples, right? So in my I'm currently in a factory now, so I got this green screen up. But back home, in home base, the showcase behind me is a collection of samples, and I'm actually fortunate that for that once in my life now, I actually have a showcase. So as a kid, you always wanted a showcase, right? But showcases are not cheap. So in Singapore, I didn't have a real showcase. I actually got a final so-called showcase. It's a cabinet plus some glass. It's not really a showcase, but it suffice for me to put my own little stuff there. And then when I moved to Hong Kong, worse, the place is small. There's just no way for any showcase. So I had no showcase until I moved over here in mainland China, and then finally, after getting the business done, and then if you saw my much earlier videos, I had a shelf, not glass, just a shelf, and that was what I put my stuff on. So finally, I had a showcase. And then what's in there is basically samples of what I bought for reference, and then our own stuff, right? I like to display my own stuff as well. The Marshall, the verse hits, the Machina stuff. So yeah, again, so I am also very cautious about collecting, because again, I can't be spending my money like you guys. You guys are the ballers, right? You guys are the ballers. So I am very cautious about spending. Every time when I hold something in my hand, I would in the end put it back, because I just think that, is it necessary? Because I have so much more commitments to do. But I do buy things because I need reference, and then I reference what other people are doing so that I can apply it to my product to make it better, right? So again, we don't claim to be the best. They are obviously very talented action figure makers in the market. I don't have to tell you that. You can see them in 5K toys and all these things. I'm talking about really the independent makers, because apart from the independent makers, if you look at the mass market of the Mattels and the Hasbros, they don't really have the kind of articulation quality, which I'm sure you've seen on various videos done online, to show the shortfall of these mass market figures. Now, having said that, the Japanese seems to do it better, and I'm always like having my thoughts about the comparisons between import figures. It doesn't really mean that import figures are definitely better. It just means that the Japanese have a method of doing things that is different, but not necessarily always better. Look at some of the Kyodos and Mayfex and Figure Arts. Even Figure Arts to me is disappointing, because when I first saw the '89 Batman released by Figure Arts, I was like, "Oh, this is a must get." But after getting it, it's like, this is not Michael Keaton's face, right? It's a disappointment, right? So it doesn't mean that the brand will always deliver the best products, but look at what 5K Toys is selling of the independent action figures. Those are the real masterpieces. So I would rank all the indie creation as number one. I will rank the Mayfex and stuff like that as the second tier, and then obviously the rest is below. So what was the question again? What if I collect toys, right? So yes, I do collect whatever I can, and in recent times I am increasing my collection, because I do give myself some leeway. Say, hey, let's just buy this and collect it. So yeah, but still very very much less than what you guys are collecting. Yeah.
You're a baller now. It's okay to admit it.
And before you move on, Bobby, I did want to say I really like to hear what you're saying about the indie scene for action figures and stuff, because I've noticed that too. Where if you want the best of the best, you have to find the smaller companies. Mayfex and stuff is good, but some of the little third party, like there was a Warhammer Orc, I don't remember which company, and it was phenomenal. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that I'm not the only one that thinks that.
and you talk so. You're doing great at segueing us into our next questions. So you talked about you moved to mainland China. We've just talked about imports and things like that. There's these tariffs going on now, and we've talked about it on our show. We've seen smaller businesses, that we buy figures from, Transformers from. They've talked about, hey, there's going to be some changes going on. Are these affecting you and what Ramen Toy's doing? Our news, for instance, we haven't talked about much because a lot of companies aren't releasing things because, I don't know, I can't say it's because of that, but it just seems like it's kind of because of the tariffs. Is that affecting you at all, or, how you're doing business?
It does affect, from what I'm knowing, because initially when I heard of these things, I am thinking that it doesn't affect us because we don't ship like bulk containers to the port, so we're shipping individual orders, and we're thinking that based on what we know, if the order is less than $800 US, it's not subjected to the tariffs. But then again, it seems like this rule is being caught by the government, or the bodies or whatever, and they're trying to also clamp down on that rule. So as far as me knowing the details now, there seems to be no effect yet, but it could be affecting soon. So what this actually just means is that we could be just going through another phase. Just like when we had COVID, everything stopped, right? There was no shipping of stuff, or businesses was slowed down. So and that's the way the world is. Sometimes we go through the ups and downs, up and down. This could just be a down for Ramen Toy, which has been on the up since inception, right? So now it could be a time for us to also slow down and look at what's going on instead of being rash and then potentially send things over, and then the customers are not willing to pay the extra, because we actually had a warning sent by our logistics that from now on, if there's anything sent by air, there must be a consensual agreement that the recipient will pay whatever fees that is due. Otherwise, if that fee is refused, then we have to pay it, no question. That means there's no debate. If the customers don't pay it, we have to pay it. So therefore, we have to decide, are we going to send it or not? See, so as we, negotiate in this turbulent little period of time, it's always good to just have our seatbelts fastened, right? In an aircraft with turbulence, just have our, don't go anywhere, don't go to the toilet, don't do this, don't do that. Just have the seatbelt fastened. Hopefully, the turbulence will be over after a while. That's my spiel for that. Yep.
Thank you. Okay, that's scary.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because we're hearing it from our side, and it's good to hear it from people actually making the toys, because that's not something that we've heard. So thank you for sharing that once again. But let's get into
just to add on a little bit. So there is in fact a truth that there's many factories that's currently halting production for what's going to the US. So that's a true thing, right?
Okay.
I've heard myself from other factory owners that they have orders that is good to go, but the customer has told them not to send it onto the boat yet because of this particular situation. And having said that, there's also pretty much in the social media in China is asking, hey guys, US, do you want to have your Christmas or Halloween or not? Because you need to receive the Halloween stuff, the Christmas stuff, and it needs to ship before, right? You don't just ship it before Christmas. You have to ship it and have it in the stores way in advance. So do you guys want to have your Christmas or not? Do you want to have your Christmas trees, your decorations? Because all these things are made in China at the moment.
Yeah.
So,
well, unfortunately, a lot of us don't have a choice in the matter right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, wow. I didn't even think. Well, I've thought about. Okay, I collect Transformers, so it's hitting my Transformers side. But some of the conversations I've had off the channel have been like, what else could be affected? There's so many things that we import that we're not thinking of. You just talked about holidays. I mean, Christmas and Halloween. I know James is the big Halloween person, and I have a 5-year-old, and Christmas has to come from my 5-year-old, of course. So I didn't even think about that aspect of how it could affect holidays and things like that. Good point.
So why don't we bring it into a little bit of a lighter question? So do you have any other hobbies besides making toys? So do you still do, like, I think you said plastic models? Are you still doing that? Or is making toys taken over your life?
It has taken over my life because it requires a lot of time to set away to make a plastic model, and I haven't actually touched a plastic model in years, right? So I'm definitely very rusty. If you gave me a plastic model now to actually put it together and paint, I got my even the airbrush that I bought from Japan, I'm heading over to the factory to use. That was so sad because I've not used it yet, and yet because the factory was trying to do some fine spray, and then their airbrushes was kind of crappy, so I actually lent them my airbrush for my particular product that needed fine spraying. So that airbrush is currently, like, I think it's not mine anymore. It's the factory have it somewhere. So yeah, I mean, I would love to sit down and build a model, but there's just too much going on now for me that I have to just put that aside. I don't know for how long. As for other hobbies, I enjoy traveling, and I'm actually doing that hobby as and when I travel to Toylanta, to Joe Fest, to Wonder Festival, and all these things. So I'm doing my hobby as I'm doing my work. So it's all falling into place. Any other hobbies would be, I guess, going to movies. But then again, the movies these days are not as quality as back in the day. So there aren't any movies for me to have my hobby to go to. So yeah, so that's about it. Yeah.
I'm I'm going to add a question in here, James, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about traveling. So you mentioned Toylanta, which has passed. You said Joe Fest, which is in Atlanta in June, I believe. So you'll be back here in June. So
yes.
I'll see you there. I'm gonna come to Joe Land. I don't even collect GI Joe, but I'm coming.
All right.
Are you doing BotCon or any other events, in the US that we should be aware of this year? Or
Yeah, so BotCon actually happens just a few days or a week before Joe Fest.
Mm-hmm.
But because I've already booked my tickets for Joe Fest, I was unable to change it so that I can actually go to BotCon, attend BotCon, stay for Joe Fest, and then that's it, right? But yeah, but I couldn't change the flight, and there was no way I'm going to go to the BotCon, fly back to Singapore for the next day, get a flight to Joe Fest. It just doesn't work that way. It's just crazy. So I had to forego BotCon. And so Joe Fest is my next time in the US. That's Augusta, right? Georgia, Augusta. Yep. And I'll be back in LA. Maybe I'll see James for SDCC. And then I will be again back in New York for NYCC in October. So the main dates for the rest of the year for me to be in the States is June for Joe Fest, July for SDCC, October for NYCC. And I hope that by the time we make the trip to Joe Fest, then all these things, the heavier topics, is resolved. Because how can we even go if there's nothing, if it's importing the stuff and we're going to increase the price or somehow make a loss, anyway. So yeah,
so
it's stressful.
So just to ask, when you come to Joe Fest, just bring it with you and I'll pick it up from you at Joe Fest.
Yes, maybe. Yeah.
So I'm actually going to add a question as well, Bobby. What is your favorite convention that you've been to in the US, let's say?
Well, so far I've only been to PowerCon in 2023, okay, and then Joe Fest in 2024, and then I subsequently followed up by NYCC, and then I guess this year is Toylanta. So those are only the few events I've been to, even though you've seen me like moving around. I've not been to SDCC since 2017. So this time going back for me, it'll be the first time since 2017. All right. So far, I think I really love PowerCon because the place was big. It has a lot of the indie makers there. Of course, Joe Fest also had the same thing, but it was a bit smaller in terms of the hall size, and it was more difficult to get to because I had to go to Atlanta and then transit another flight to Augusta, and then that flight was a very small plane. So because the airport in Augusta is smaller, so traveling there wise, Columbus, Ohio was the most comfortable. Just arrive in Columbus, and then like less than 20 minutes ride from the airport to the actual convention center. So very comfortable. So the next in line will be Joe Fest because Joe Fest also had a very good energy. Toylanta is much different because it has a much smaller floor size. And then the other rooms above was like ballroom in the hotel sort of thing. So a different feel, but indeed I would rank PowerCon first with no disrespect to the rest of the cons, definitely. And then New York Comic Con is just the works because it has all it has the best range of cosplay I've seen in my life. The
Oh.
best, the absolute best. Yeah. So
did you get dressed up? No.
no, I did not. But maybe this next round I will have something in store. Maybe. Yeah.
So let's jump into some of the lines. So my favorite, Machina, M.A.S.K. This was a bit of excitement for me and a bit of disappointment as well. So rumors were out there that you were trying to acquire the M.A.S.K license from Hasbro, and the agreement didn't work out for whatever reason. Now we're seeing that Loyal Subjects is getting the license. How do you feel about that, and does it play into what you're going to be doing with the Machina line at all?
I think it's good that the Loyal Subjects has the M.A.S.K license, because again, I would be buying the Loyal Subjects, right? I've mentioned it before. I want to get the Thunderhawk, the Switchblade. I've never had a Rhino, so yes, I'm going to be buying Loyal Subjects products. Okay, in a sense, it's actually a reissue of the original stuff, which we have not is not a stranger to our collecting world, because Takara released the G1 Optimus Prime, and then that was my chance to buy G1 Optimus Prime. Of course, ever since that, they've released it many times, right? many times, such that it became like you're numb to it. But it's good, like I said, it's reminiscence to the book reissue, right? When Hasbro released Hasbro or Takara, right, released all the book Transformers. So basically, that was a chance for anybody who didn't have a chance to buy the original G1 to reacquire or to acquire the G1 Transformers. So likewise here, it's a great chance for people who have not been able to buy M.A.S.K, especially the vintage ones at higher prices, to actually buy these brand new creations of the reissues, right? It's a reissue, and it's a good chance to buy it. And it actually takes a bit of pressure off myself, because, like I said, I wasn't able to. I wasn't in my plan to actually make every single vehicle again in Machina style. That was kind of my plan, right? So for people who wants those other vehicles, they can now get it as reissues, albeit, right, instead of new creation. So my opinion is that it's great. It's great that M.A.S.K is now having a resurgence officially in the toy world. And like I said, I would bet there's still tons of people out there who don't know about Machina and Ramen Toy. They have no idea, right? Only the people who are in the fan groups will know about us. So for the people who are not online, not online savvy, seeing the Loyal Subjects in the stores would be like the first time seeing M.A.S.K after 40 years. So that's my opinion. Yep.
You are a really big positive person, because I would have been like, damn it, I hate them,
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah.
Well, this is something that I'm interested in. So, do you have any details on any convention exclusives from Machina? If there's anything you're willing to spill.
Yeah, so we have planned a convention exclusive Joe Fest for Joe Fest, right? So I have given a tease of one little part of the product, and I will show more in the coming month. Yep, there will be an exclusive plan. Yep.
All right. Well,
Is that the picture? And I saw a picture on Facebook,
Yes.
and it was like some shark teeth or some teeth.
Yes.
It looked like teeth. Is
Yes.
that the one we're talking about?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so we'll show that right now for the fans as well. So
Yeah.
stay tuned for that.
okay.
So,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so Ramen Racers is another one of your lines. So, can you tell us about what is offered with that line?
Okay, so the Ramen Racer was spawned due to the Engine of Vengeance HasLab, right? I was not a follower of HasLabs until the Engine of Vengeance. I only knew about the Unicron HasLab because it was quite widely mentioned, but I had no idea about the rest of the stuff like the Rancor, other things. So the only time I saw the HasLab Engine of Vengeance was because I'm on YouTube most of the time, and I'm getting all these things recommended to me by YouTube, and I'm seeing all these Engine of Vengeance videos, right? People saying that it's overpriced, saying that it's whatever, and then I saw the campaign itself, right? At a high of 7,000 backers, they needed 9,000, and then it went down to 5,000. People are backing out. So I was thinking to myself, when it ended at 5,000, could I get 1,000 of those people to support the Ramen Racer? And the reason why I'm doing it is because I saw the passion for people wanting it. Yes, there were some people that didn't want it. There was, trashing on it, but there was a good amount of people that want it, right? So since it's not funding, it's not going to be made. So can I make it for those people that want it? So that was how the Ramen Race came about, right? So we set out to show the concept of the 3D of the vehicle with the flames, and then we had feedback and comments. Hey, I want the car. I don't want the flames. Okay, so we took out the flames and we made the Ramen Racer with the flames being an add-on option. So you can now get the car. If that's what you want, get the car for your figures. And then if you want the HasLab version, you can buy an add-on set of the flames. And then we had more comments about, hey, that is the same design as the General Lee. So why don't you do it in orange? So that was when we had the idea, okay, we will make it in orange. So basically the Ramen Racer evolved from the Engine of Vengeance, which was primarily what it was for. Hence we call it Happy Halloween, right? Because it was during the Halloween time that this was available. And then it just evolved into Ramen Racer. And of course, credit to Michael Canova, who is working with us for some of our marketing, that he suggested the name Ramen Racer. So kudos to Michael. Yep.
I think that's when I really started seeing you a lot is on videos is about the Ramen Racer. There was a lot of feedback on it, and it the HasLab, the Unicron HasLab was the first one I found out about, and I missed it. Pissed off about that because I ended up paying the late tax, and instead of paying $500 for it, I paid a lot for it. But these HasLabs, some of them fund, some of them don't fund, and there are people. James and I, in particular, have talked about some of the Transformer ones, and it's just like, hey, the price on this is a little bit too high for what you're getting, and some people love it, some people don't love it. So, and everything in between. So I appreciate you coming out and making something for fans, because there is a market that wants it. It may not be 10,000 people, but maybe it's 7,000, or maybe it's something that everybody wants and they just can't get it. So that's a great point of you picking that up. So let's talk about some of the other things. So the Dioramas, I like that name. It seems to be like sewers, like, so I'm thinking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Are you planning on doing any other dioramas or things like that? Because my collection, I have a decent collection, and I would love some other dioramas, Transformer-esque, of course, but could we see like a Boulder Hill playset for the Machina line?
Okay. So the whole thing about making all this stuff is actually the tooling, right? So we have a good experience, success with the Ramen Racer, because it's a big tooling, expensive tooling, but we were able to make 2,000 pieces, which was a good number to reach for making a new tooling. The minimum of obviously is 1,000. So for the Dioramas, sewer and street, we actually got just 1,000 units sold. So that was actually an underperforming project compared to the Ramen Racer, but we're doing it anyways. So it just means that it gives us more thought for doing the next Diorama, because the tooling cost is there, and the fan support might not be there, right? So we were definitely optimistic with the sewer and street, because we were riding a high on the Ramen Racer, thinking that the next project that we're gonna present to the fans who were complaining about the NECA sewer layer being too expensive, and we showed that we can do all these huge thing for the same price as the NECA sewer layer, that it would actually be a hit. But unfortunately, it is not such a hit. It's only a moderate success, moderate, because we were just selling it's all there. We don't lie, all right. Of course, it's up to you to believe me. The counter is there on our website. It counts how many units is sold, and it currently shows about 1,000 something, right? It's not even 1,100 yet. So almost definitely half of the quantity sold for Ramen Racer, which in our establishment is not a bang out success. It's we're just getting over the finish line. So with that in mind, we have to rethink about how we're going to progress with the next project, whether it's like you mentioned a boulder hill, things like that. So there is definitely demand for like like bad cave sort of dioraman, castle gray scarish environment for He-Man. But again, we need to look at what would be the best way to deliver something. Again, we want to bring down the price, right? We understand that a setup is not integral for the collector. At the end of the day, the collector just want to buy the figure. It'll be nice and cool to have a screen, a scene, a display, a background to display the figures with, but not critical. It's still not a critical. It's not like, oh, I'm not. I won't buy the figure because I can't get the background. No, I will still get the background. Still get the figure, but the background is optional. I could have it. I could not have it. And then there's the condition of space. People are saying, oh, it's too big. I have nowhere to put it. So these are all factors to consider before making the next one. Because if we made it big like now, following the NECA sewer layer, it's difficult. People can't fit it in. If we made it smaller, maybe fit the detour, that could be the next step towards evolving the dioraman. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, you mentioned this with the certain Skull Castle, and when I was looking at your site, you had a new line, I believe, called Masters of the Verse. Can you explain what that is?
Okay, so the Master of the Verse came about because initially we saw the highly anticipated movie He-Man figure from Mattel, right? Mm-hmm. Great. Now you're giving us what Super 7 previously gave us, but now couldn't be found, right? The Super 7 had a what's the word? There was a Super 7 movie He-Man figure that was made, right? And then that was back in the day. So now Mattel is giving the fans the movie He-Man. But wait a minute, the head is totally wrong. So that was the first thing that stuck out at me, and I thought to myself, let's fix that. So I had Julian Cabada, our resident sculptor from Argentina, say, hey Julian, could you do something better than this? And he said, okay, and he came up with the initial head replacement. That was what we had called the verse 1, verse 2, and then there was calls for, wait a minute, that's only for Masterverse size. Could we do one for Origins? So we shrunk down and squished the head so that it fitted Origins. So that was 1, 2, 3, and that was it. Masters of the Verse heads that was actually sold at PowerCon to replace the Mattel movie He-Man. Now, Masterverse then carried on Mattel, right, with a new line of He-Man, the battle armor. And then wait a minute, that head is totally wrong. It doesn't look like the box art. Box art was a very handsome He-Man, right? If you remember the box art that they had, handsome He-Man head. But wait a minute, the toy is nowhere near handsome He-Man. So again, we reached out to Julian. Could you do something? And then he created the verse 4, verse 5, and then we thought to ourselves, wait a minute, there were some calls for Faker. So let's
Oh yeah.
tweak up. Let's tweak up the original verse 1 hit, make the hair a little bit fluffy, make the eyes a little bit angrier, and then we paint it blue, and that was verse 6. So that was the whole spiel for Master of the Verse hits. Yep.
I'm never gonna be able to say anything but handsome He-Man now. So let's go through some of the other lines. So the vans, you know, there's the white, the black, there's the 18 van, there's the menacing machine. Is that what it's called?
Misery.
Misery machine. Yes, I saw the misery machine in person. That thing is humongous, and so where did the idea for all the vans come from? I mean, the 18 van, I seen somebody with it, and it looks amazing. I've seen pictures. So where did that idea come from?
So again, it is from the Ramen Racer. Once we had the Ramen Racer done, there was immediately, comments in the comment section for a van, and they were saying that I don't want the lights. Can you make it cheaper? So that's where we came up with the idea of the economical van, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ramen's economical van, the REV. Let's not be fancy with interchangeable parts and all these things. No lights, no sound. Just make it a simple van because people want the van for their photography, for their 6-inch figures. So we actually made the Ramen Racer was $245, right? Retail price. So van, we made it early bird price $100, right? So normal price 140 something. Okay, so we actually brought the price down from the Ramen Racer for the van. Okay, and then the initial idea was to make the 18 because again, retro artistic 80s nostalgia. The 80s nostalgia was the 18 van.
Yes.
So that was what it is. And then once we showed the 18 van, people were asking again, how about just a normal van, black, white? Okay, so we evolved that by removing all the parts from the 18 van. We made a generic white and black van. Okay, and then after we did that, people are saying, yes, the black van looks good for Punisher, but it doesn't have the there is no accessories. So we put back parts from the 18 van onto the black van and made it more black because the black van had like silver trims. Right. That's not good. They want all black. So we made black wheels, darken everything, and then you have the radar. There you go, guys. You can use this for your Punisher van. That's it. That was how it evolved.
I love that you take the fan input and make these products for the fans.
Yeah. For the fans.
That's big. I know the mystery machine or the misery machine. One of our subscribers who actually sent some questions as well. I know he's probably going to pick that up because his name is Scooby Prime, so he loves everything Scooby Doo. So I can see him picking that up. It looks really good.
And the misery machine is actually kudos to Zika Toys. So don't give credit to us because Zika Toys was the one that reached out to me to say, hey, could we use your van mold and we make our own production of the misery machine. So that's all kudos to Zika. The artwork, everything came from them. We are just assisting with the production. Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice. Love to see collaboration.
Yep.
So a lot of our fans also like G.I. Joe, and you do have some vehicles that are reminiscent to it. So what can they look for? I think I saw that there was already one that was the pre-order sold out.
Yeah.
What do you have in that line?
So that was the next step of what is the 12-inch vehicle. So we had the Ramen Racer, we had the van, and then immediately folks were saying about G.I. Joe, any love for G.I. Joe. So we came up with the tanks, right? So initially it was again the bridge layer was the initial first sculpt because I myself have loved a bridge layer, not because of G.I. Joe, but because of my affiliation with armored vehicles as like the tank regimen, right? So I've always been in awe of the bridge layer because the bridge layer is something that is not really done in the realm of collectibles. You have die-cast tanks, right? But you don't have a die-cast bridge layer. You have a RC bridge layer that's really workable, and that's a thing of genius. Your mind will be blown if you look at videos of those. I think it's 110 or something.
Wow.
I think it's 110. I could be wrong. If you just Google RC radio control bridge layer, you will see the thing in action. It moves, it lays the bridge, it goes over the bridge, it retracts the bridge and carries on.
Wow.
But we can't do that, right? We can't do that. We can only do a manual. You have to do it with your hands. So I was looking at the bridge layer and I thought it's a pretty interesting thing to do, right? Not knowing that the bridge layer was actually a product from G.I. Joe. This is the truth, right? I didn't know. I just wanted to do the bridge layer because I've always wanted the bridge layer. Okay. In fact, I was thinking of making a line of die-cast bridge layers to complement the existing tanks in the market that doesn't have the bridge layer. But again, that would be a tall order because I would have to introduce myself as a new brand into the scene and only making a bridge layer. Then people will be like, okay, what's your next product, right? For that particular very niche die-cast tanks scene. So since I'm doing action figures, catering to the collectors of, action figures and 112, then it's only logical that I made a bridge layer for them, for you guys, right? So that was what I thought of. I wasn't like, hey, G.I. Joe bridge layer, let's do it. No, I really had no idea that G.I. Joe had a bridge layer until people showed me, right? So, and that was how it evolved because once they said, how about a Wolverine? I was like, what's a Wolverine? And they showed me images of the Wolverine, right, which is rocket launchers on top of a turret. So again, we started working, and then let's remove the bridge. Can we convert our hull into that thing? And we made the Phalanx, which is the so-called the Wolverine that you guys wanted, right? And then again, why would we do a bridge layer and a Wolverine alone when the main thing is a tank, right? So I talked to Julian and said, hey, can we do a M1-ish looking thing for our tank? Because a real M1 Abrams has 7 road wheels. So to make an accurate 112 scale M1 Abrams is going to be huge, much bigger than what you saw at Toylanta.
Right.
So I had to make a compromise. And reduce 7 road wheels to 5 road wheels. So even though it looks a bit squished, I think it does the job for overall price, space, and everything. So that was what you saw at Toylanta, the Hunter tank. Yep.
And that thing was big. It's very big. Brave Star, or the Marshal. I've seen comments about are you going to be doing other characters? I didn't watch the show. I know there was like a character that was like a horse that stood up, and I think you were looking at doing that. Any updates about the Marshal or what's going on with that?
Yes. So the Marshal was basically the 3rd or 4th idea that we had doing the third-party 80s stuff. So Centurions first, Silverhawks, and then Marshal, right? So that was one of the things that we definitely wanted to do. We did it, and obviously we had also the 3-0 sculpted and good to go, but we're still doing some revision to the hair piece. For some reason, he has a very unique hair style, such that in that shape, it's actually not possible to move his head anywhere. Not possible with a huge piece of plastic. So initially we thought about using soft material, but then again, soft material, if you bend the head, your hair is going to flex in a weird fashion, right? So I understand that Jada Toys Blanca is using that soft material for the hair. So even though Blanca does not have the exact same hairstyle as 3030, it is similar, but not the same, okay? 3030 has a much thicker volume of hair. Blanca just has like crazy downward hair, right? So it might work for Blanca because he's thin, but 3030 has volume. So we are still working on that hair, and I think we have found a compromise to sort of have the hair split into 3 sections, such that the hair would actually recede into the main bulk and allow less length, so that the head can turn up and side to side. So we're trying to show that final piece when we're ready, maybe in the next month, because what we showed off in Singapore Comic Con, the final painted prototype, we're not going to sell that because we have made adjustments to the product. We can't possibly show you something that has no cuts in the hair and then deliver something with cuts in the hair. You're going to have fury from collectors that, oh, this is not what I paid for, So we're going to take our time to show you exactly what we're selling you before we actually sell you something. So that's the main idea. As for other characters, we're still in development. Again, there's lots of stuff on our plate, and we're going to pace ourselves, and then we definitely want to move into the next Brave Star character really soon. Yeah.
Interesting. So with Aces of Aviation, so is that Top Gun, or are we looking at something else, or can you even say yet?
So it's me being a skill modeler, loving aircraft. Making pilot figures is a no-brainer. It's going to be the next step anyways, right? And I was looking at I'm not saying that Hasbro saw my stuff and started making more pilot stuff. I don't know. But in the end, before we made Ace of Aviation, there was really no pilot figures in the market in 112. Correct me if I'm wrong. All right. And I was very interested in the HG. What's the? Hold on, I'm drawing a blank. There's a name to the HGU. The HGU, I think 33 is the typical Top Gun helmet, whereby you have a piece that you drop down the visor. Right nowadays, in modern fighter pilot, they have just the piece that you just bring it down to yourself. You don't have that little contraption anymore. So I think that was pretty iconic as a kid growing up, looking at all these pilot helmets. I mean, pilot helmets are really cool, right? When the pilot dons the helmet, it doesn't matter how you look, you will look cool. Right? Once you have the helmet on, you're the most handsome guy in the room. Right? Right? So I wanted to make the pilots, but I thought that I could make the sure winner first by making the Maverick figure as a third party. So obviously we got a C&D from Paramount. You can't do, Tom Cruise and all these things. Okay, fine. So I turned course and I introduced Ace of Aviation first by making generic pilot helmets that was in real life. So the VF-84 Joy Rogers, the VF-111 Sundowners, and the VF-1 Wolfpack. So these are actual real life naval squadrons for the F-14 Tomcat, right? Real life. Just that I made the faces of those figures reminiscent of Top Gun, right? So you got the Viper. This is Tom Sherritt's face. You got the other Sundown character, and incidentally, I used the VF-111 Sundowners for him as Sundown. So it's some may say that it's a direct thing, but it's what it is. What it is. So Viper actually got a VF-84 Joy Rogers helmet instead of his actual Viper helmet, and then my VF-1 Wolfpack's face was actually the face that you would put onto the Falcon for G.I. Joe. Again, when they introduced the Falcon, they got a very funny face, and I thought that we just made a face to help collectors have a better Falcon's face head, right? So that was what it is, and we of course introduced the Mavericks stuff as a bonus pack, so that when you buy the whole set of figures, you can actually remove the Falcon's head, put that onto your Falcon figure, and put on the other Maverick head to get your Maverick figure. And I think, C&D aside, I think all the fans want a Maverick figure in the collection, and that's what we're giving. Right? We might get in serious trouble, but if the people who are giving us trouble have some sense of empathy or whatever the word it is, that this is not such a big deal. We're not profiting millions of dollars from this thing. Just give the fans a break, and just give the fans what they want if you're not doing it. So yeah, that's my pitch.
It works for me. So you talk about the fans. Let's jump into some fan questions. So we got a lot of fan questions. So this is a set of questions from a mutual friend of ours, Titan, who was at Toylanta with me. So first question was, how did you become the hardest working cyborg in the business? And he said that's an inside joke. And then he said, are you making a Devastator? Which is another kind of joke, because everybody for Transformers seems to be making a Devastator from a third party perspective. And then I guess this is more of a serious one. What is your personal favorite 80s franchise that Ramen hasn't tackled yet, that you would love to do?
Okay, so in regards to my work ethic, I believe that since you are getting paid by your customers, you jolly well put in the hours, right? And our team is a small team. If I don't do it, who's going to do it? So I have to put in the hours. Like this is an interview. I got to spend time to get online to do this. On another channel, maybe on a live stream, I got to allocate the time to go and do it, to promote the company, promote the brand. So these social media work is needed. I'm not as active on our own channel making videos because I am fully occupied. I do videos as and when I can. I hope to do more, maybe in future with more help. But in the meantime, with what we have, that is the maximum I can do. But I'm trying my best to do a live stream every other month. In terms of videos, because videos requires content, you need to know what I'm talking about. So I don't really have any script or any idea of what I'm going to do for videos per se, other than live streams that I'm updating customers with once a month. Other than that, videos would be maybe to show customers how to fix stuff, troubleshoot on our products, maybe simple, non-speaking narrative videos to show our upcoming products, like the video I did on Mobular, simple photos, me transforming the stuff, that sort of thing. So that's what I do in terms of work ethic. I got to also look at the social media, because customers and fans and supporters are coming to our socials to leave messages, whether it be a problem that they're experiencing, a question that they have. So these needs to be answered. So who else is answering this but me? All right, because that's it. We are a small setup, right? So I do miss certain comments because I can't attend to all of them all of the time, but I always try to go back and see the backlog. That's why when some of you receive messages from me, I say sorry that this message has been like 6 months old. And I do my best to say, like, sorry, the message is 6 months old, but I only just got to it because sometimes messages that is sent and not read, it gets pushed down the packing order, right, with new messages. So I do scroll through everything, try to get to everybody as best as I can. So that's so far for me in terms of my work ethic, because you guys are supporting us, paying your hard-earned money to get the stuff that we're making. So it's only the least we can do to make sure that we are addressing your concerns, making ourselves present as and when needed, to show that we are here. We're here. We are not vacationing somewhere on a beach, sipping on meat, on drinks with little umbrellas. We are here. We are every moment we are here doing our best to improve the product, to make the production and delivering stuff to you. So that's the first question. Number two, no, I'm not doing a devastator because I do not believe in entering a competition to do something better than what's already the best that's being done. That's why you don't see me doing the Iron Man. You don't see me doing the next Batman because there's already so many great products being done. If I can't do it better, I'm not going to even try. So I'm only trying to doing things that is not being done, that's being left out in the cold. So that's where I'm coming from. And what was the last question?
It was actually, what's your personal favorite '80s franchise that you haven't done yet that you would love to take on, as well as your favorite '80s movie or TV series? I forgot that
I would think that Starcom is one of my favorites. I believe a certain Valaverse is looking into that as well, so I don't think I should be stepping on toes. But yeah, Starcom is something that I would love to do. In terms of movies, there's so many movies. Not to say I'm a Tom Cruise fan, but I do enjoy A Few Good Men, The Firm, Top Gun, obviously. Back to the Future trilogy, love that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think whatever that you guys love, I love it too. That's why we're in the same mindset, same ballpark. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Trey Phi, one of our members, is asking you, which toy or series do you plan on bringing out next?
Which toy or series? I am trying to get the Visionaries out. I am trying to fulfill some requests for Galaxy Rangers. So those are the two things I can probably say because we are actually seriously considering those. Not to mention, we are working on some helicopters. There was a failed Kickstarter for 118. We are working on that because we are trying to get the license for that as well. Of course, you've seen the Knight Rider car. So these are all things that we're working on. Other than that, we are working on other stuff, but we will probably keep those on tight lid so that we don't get hopes up too early. we rather want to surprise. It's a thing, right? If you say something too early and you are letting the collectors wait, that's not good. Which is why big companies say no pictures, right? You have to keep this in secrecy. I mean, I've seen stuff that Mattel is working on at the factory that is due in 2026.
Wow.
But you haven't heard it yet because they won't tell you because there's no point for them to tell you now and then you have to wait till 2026 by the time the whole urge is died down, and that's just human nature, and we appreciate that. So as much as previously we want to keep everybody in the know-how and tell you something that we're working on today that's going to be due in 2 years' time, because we want to get you involved in the process, in the brainstorm, in certain input. Because sometimes you guys know better than us. Sometimes you guys say, "Hey, this thing shouldn't be like that." For example, we have had emails about improving the modular, right? Like this should be this, that should be more like that, and we are doing it, right? So in the time span that we can actually change the product, we can change it. But if we said nothing and just showed you the modular in next year and we didn't address these points, then it's all casted in metal. It's all the steel molds are done. There's no way we can change anything, even though you've screwed this up, you screwed that up, but too bad we can't change it. So there's pros and cons. The pros is that if you're involved in the early announcement of the product, you can actually see what we're doing and make some input and we can change it. But if we don't say anything and just come out with, "Hey, this is it," then too bad, you can't change anything. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So I guess then the next question would be, this is from Benny from Phoenix Draconis and Kaon Reviews. Speaking of Machina, when will Ramen Toys be making their version of Switchblade?
Whew. Okay, so I don't want to be stepping on toes and stuff like that, so I wouldn't be able to comment on that at the moment, but I can comment that we are working on our own Machina as an IP. So you expect to see, an official release of Machina with original storyline, original characters, original transforming vehicles. That is what we are working on right now.
Oh, awesome.
Yep.
Okay.
So, Robot Lucas, we kind of already mentioned this, but so I don't think we need to go into it again. He's asking about the loyal subjects again and the line. So, in layman's terms, would you consider the loyal subjects more of a, if you know Transformers Chug Generations, but I think you would consider it more of a retro style line, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
yes.
then, go on.
What's the question?
So, do you know what Chug means in Transformers?
Chug. In Transformers.
It's
no.
like it's what Hasbro produces, more or less.
Okay.
Would you
So
consider
like
the loyal subjects line a Chug line or a retro line? I'm editing his question a little bit because we already kind of talked about it.
I think it's just a reissue of the original.
Okay.
That's it, yeah.
Okay.
And then he's asking about the the shark teeth, but we talked about that as well.
Yes, we talked about that.
Good questions, Robot Lucas.
Okay, so then, ready to come back?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So from Scooby Prime, and we've talked about him previously, but he wants to know what's the status of the Knight Rider, and will you be doing a car version, which was the evil version of Kit?
Well, we are again trying to pursue the license. We are working with some parties that may have the license that can work with us. So until I know more, I can't actually say more. In regards to whether or not we can make the other version, of course, we would love to amortize the tooling, right, to make another version. But I guess the car does not have the Super Pursuit mode, so that will be something that is going to be a bit of a challenge because we're going to offer the same tooling in a different color.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on the fans' acceptance level of that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, very interesting. So Blue, which is one of our members as well, says, do you have any updates on the upcoming Centurion's release?
Well, the updates would be Antagonist Scientist is due for test shot come June, so probably in Joe Fest you can see the test shots, and then we'll move swiftly to production and get it out to you guys by fourth quarter of this year. As for the other plans, should I say something here or not? Maybe.
Sure.
I'm thinking of making the original sculpts for you guys. So instead of our own version of 80s Commanders, let's give you guys the exact sculpts that you guys want.
Oh.
Of the key characters. Yeah. No stylization, nothing. Just pure what you see in the cartoon. That's our next idea, and it should be enough time because the big fiasco was that when we released the first 80s Commanders, we shortly released the cartoon colors, and that pissed off fans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they said we should have done that years later or give some time. So now it's been 5 years since our initial sculpt. Yeah, next year will be 5th year, right? So can we, on the 5th anniversary, re-look at making the 80s Commanders Centurions? And we are actually looking at buying the Centurions name, working with some solicitors now with licensing to actually secure the Centurion's name and properly name it Centurions, because we did some inquiry, and apparently the Centurion's name is actually not owned by anybody.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So if we can actually get the correct steps, of course there is like real ownership by the creators of Centurions, whom I believe is in non-agreement with like the cartoon animation company that made the Centurions cartoon. So there's a lot of conflict that nobody actually owns Centurions outright. Like, for example, Hasbro owns Transformers, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's a clear-cut Transformers, you got a license from Hasbro, but Centurions, you don't, there's no one to license from. Yet, you can't actually call it Centurions yourself, otherwise you'll be infringing on a line. So why not go get the actual Centurions trademark, and then we can call it Centurions. And that's the plan.
Awesome.
Okay, yeah. I want to just tag on to that because I just got the Phantom foil. Will you be doing other suits? You know, that go with the characters and not necessarily just the characters.
Yes, the extra weapon system is always a challenge because, like I said, we have to have tooling for it, and unless we try again with a more popular weapon system, our current experience with doing a weapon system is that it doesn't make any money, and we're not even close to recovering the money spent. As you know, we did an initial prototype for John Thunder and his Thunder knife.
Yes,
that was $20,000 of investment of making the prototype, the mechanics and everything, but we couldn't make the sale, so that had to be scrapped because that, in a sense, is a failed crowdfund. Because if we couldn't make the sales, and had we tooled the thing ourselves and not make the sale, then it'll be a big dent in our financial well-being. So that was actually a good call for us to cancel that project. So that said, it's a high risk because we can see, or rather we cannot see, the demand from the fans for supporting all these weapon systems at the moment. Yeah,
I did back that one too. So go ahead, James.
Okay, so Blue is also asking, do you plan on doing the Inhumanoids?
Whew. It's gonna take some time. Like I said, if you guys really know Inhumanoids, and I'm sure within the community of fans of Inhumanoids, there's gonna be one sculptor or sculpting talent or graphic talent that can draw something. If there is people in the community that is passionate enough about Inhumanoids, reach out to me. We can collaborate to turn your ideas and prototypes into actual production for the fans. Because I myself do not have the bandwidth at the moment to touch on Inhumanoids. Number one, I don't have the passion. I don't know what it is about. It's not fair for me to touch it just because I hear that there's demand for it and I'm going to profit on it. No, I want to make sure that whatever that is done because the fans want it to be done. So if there are fans out there who wants Inhumanoids, reach out to me. Let's have a discussion. Show me your stuff. I'm sure you're doing much better than me because you are the fan. And then we can somehow help you with manufacturing to get this into production. Whether it's a Kickstarter or whatever, we can find a way to do it. That's my speech. That's my pitch.
That's awesome.
So this one comes from Lara 5501, and he's one of our subscribers. So he has a few questions, and so first one: when will we get additional figures or figure packs for Machina? if any?
Oh, okay. Let's see. We are working on some figure packs with another retailer in the US. So you'll expect to see figure packs in NYCC. Is what I can tell you. Yep.
Oh yes, okay.
And the whole idea is when we make Machina vehicles, the figures that comes with Machina will be without eyes because we want to keep in tune with the retro and keep in tune with what we've done so far. So introducing eyes would be a wrong move for Modular because Great White and Gullwing have no eyes. But if you want eyes, sure, let's do eyes for Matt Hawking and Porsche White and for Modular as individual figure packs. So these are all coming by fourth quarter of this year. Yep.
Oh wow.
I want those too, please. Okay, so he also asked regarding exclusive decos for the Great White and Mobula, how many options and what potential events to do exclusives for? And is there a possibility for a larger quantity being produced than before with the Gullwings, 5 different decos, or particularly higher quantities produced than its 3 exclusive decos?
Okay, so if you allow me to just mention the history of it all, to make a tooling of a vehicle is not cheap. Again, I've mentioned many times, and we all know that you can't do different colors of the Gullwing. It's red. That's it. There's no blue. There's no green. There's no other thing. It's red. And the only way to redo it is to reissue. And we don't want reissues because we don't want to devalue what customers supported on the very first run.
Right.
Okay? So, but we do hear people say, oh, I missed the first one and I don't want to pay eBay prices. Okay, we hear you. We will do it again, but we'll always do it different. So when we heard the calls of fans saying they want to have the Gullwing again because they missed the first one, we introduced the second one, which was no tempo print. A red car with stickers that you paste on yourself, which we think can work because it's reminiscent to the original Kenner toys that you have to paste stickers yourself. Okay? So, and again, the stickers actually give a different feel because when you tempo print something, there's no gloss. It's all matte. When you have the stickers on, there's a nice gloss feel to it. So it gives the Gullwing a different feel. Now there's something glossy about it. There's something nice, right? So there's 2 things. Then again, people say that stickers are low grade, whereas tempo print is high grade. Yes. So you decide what it is. Because we can't reissue the first one, we are giving you the second option to purchase. Now, offering the second option again comes with its difficulties because those people who already bought the first one is not going to buy the second one. Only a select few would buy both.
Right.
So we already have a drastically reduced number of customers buying the second run. So what happened was, in effect, that we only got 500 units ordered for the second pre-order, and we couldn't make our 1K of MOQ. So what happened in my mind? I conjured up event exclusives. 200 for Robo for their clear Gullwing, 200 for Joe Fest, 200 for BotCon, 600 to make the bare minimum of 1,100 of the whole amount for production. So it wasn't intentionally 200. It was to see how we can make up 1,000 for the factory to produce it, at the same time not overproduce on an exclusive such that people are not buying it. Because how am I sure that people are acceptable to buy a black Gullwing? Because it's not original, right? So it's a risk. If I made more than that and I ended up having stock, what do? I have to reduce the price and discount it and sell, and that's not what we want. We never want to reduce and discount something. That's the worst thing that collectors would want. So we just trial and error, right? 200. If we saw a 200, okay, fine. Maybe next time round we can do a bit more. So yes, we will do a bit more for the next round of exclusive, and we'll plan it this way because the whole idea of doing the exclusive is for us to amortize the tooling of the investment to allow us to do another run At the same time, it gives collectors some collectability options of the same product but in different formats, and that's the whole idea of collection. Yep.
I'm mad because I didn't know there was a clear one, and I'm mad I didn't get that, and I missed the one from Joe Fest, and so
Okay.
I'm mad about that as well. So
It's okay. It's okay.
that's my personal,
Yeah.
Okay. So the other question he asked, how about will you make like familiar, recognizable characters for other lines? So like Transformers had an episode where some of the Transformers turned into humans, and so will you do, maybe those characters in the same size as like the Machina line, or have you thought about that?
Currently, I've heard some mention about doing. Is it Scott? Is it Scott? No, it's not Scott. It's what's the Spike? Spike.
Yeah.
Spike and his dad.
Spike, Sparkplug, and he actually said, and maybe change the name to like Pike. And
okay, we can definitely look into that, and it's a real possibility as long as it doesn't look the same as something else that's already made. I think there's figures of those made. I'm not sure the size. So as long as it's something uniquely different, we can do it. Yep.
And then what about clothes, like different outfits for them? Because like he started talking about some of the characters in M.A.S.K, for instance. They had different clothes. So with the different vehicles, they came with different suits or different clothes on. So like maybe one guy had suspenders, somebody wore a short sleeve shirt with a tie. I don't remember that, but as somebody who wears a tie, that looks terrible. Are you thinking about doing any of that type of stuff too?
As and when we have the bandwidth and the enough in the piggy bank, we definitely will look at all these things, because every single outfit is a different mold, and that mold again cannot be repurposed for something else. So we have to be really careful. We want to do it, but we need to make sure it makes sense. Yeah.
And will there be modular head swap abilities amongst them? That's another question he asked.
You can actually swap the heads currently, so I think that's doable. Yep.
Okay. And where does Machina rank in terms of units sold compared to other Ramen Toy products?
It is number 1. The Great White was the biggest seller. Yeah. More than Gullwing. So yeah, it's a good. Although Mobula is not performing as well as the Great White. So there you go. We can sort of understand it, because you see, the Gullwing is like Optimus Prime, right? In M.A.S.K, is Optimus Prime. The Great White was never produced, so people are buying it. Mobula is available as Manta, just that we're trying to do it, cartoon accurate. So it might not appeal to everybody, even though you're a M.A.S.K fan. So we can see. So you just imagine if we did like Gator and Jackhammer and all these things, it's going to be even less.
I want it.
But the cost of development is the same. Doesn't mean that it's a lesser item, the cost gets cheaper. The cost is the same, if not more, if it's bigger or more complex. So this is the reality of making stuff, and we don't need the customers to understand it, because at the end of the day, they pay the money to get what they want. They don't care how difficult it is to be made, or R&D. That's my problem. They only care about paying the hard-earned money to get what they want. And if it's not what they want, they won't pay for it. It's as simple as that. So if they don't want the Mobula, they're not going to buy it. If they don't want the Gator in our format, they're not going to buy it. It just means that we have to find the correct project to do. That's about it.
Okay. I'll go ahead, James. I'll skip.
All right. Let's see. He has a lot of questions, so he might skip through these a little bit. He says, "Is the cost of smaller Machina figures not much less production-wise than the 6-inch figures?"
Oh, I missed that one.
No, it's much less. Obviously, yeah, much less. Yes.
And he also says, "Have you ever looked at figures that are like Joy Toys, 1:27 or 1:28 scale?" which are similar to the Machina size and scale?
I think we want to also be very aware of what skills collectors want. So if it's 118, they want 118. Don't do some funny scale. If it's 112, that is currently the most popular line, don't do different iterations. For example, Beast Kingdom came out with 110, and then what does that mean? It's too big for the 112, right? But there's a reason why they come out with the 110, because licensing. They can't license 112, they can only license 110. So that's a different topic, right? So back to my skill, so far I think that the Machina 124 skill is a skill that I want to explore developing, because at a smaller scale, the vehicles and the play sets involved is not as sizable as 112. So that means the collectors may have the space to buy 124. And I would take the risk to invest into developing 124, so that, again, for the reason I just mentioned, collectors may find that this skill, although it's a new skill, they might buy into it. Because if I am making a Tomcat, 112 is just no way, right? 118 maybe, because it's been done before. 118 skill by JSI, the defunct JSI, they did a 118 F14, but again, it's real big. Can I do 124 Machina size F14? You can have a sizable F14 in your living room that can depict, can reminisce what you love about Top Gun, but 124. So I'm trying to get into this and see how it progresses. And even if we somehow do, let's say, He-Man 124, your gray skull is going to be smaller, but not less in detail. So you can now have a gray skull with all the characters all there, right? All the little, like, Wind Raider, your whatever stuff, you can do a whole Dioraman in 124 of Master of the Universe. Just saying, just pitching the idea. Yep.
Makes sense.
So another subscriber, Mark Villani 8836, says, "Will Ramen Toys ever produce a Transformer?" He bets that you guys would engineer a fantastic figure.
Actually, contrary to that belief, no. We are actually pretty dud at making Transformers. Leave that to the geniuses who are making the third-party stuff. They are the true masters. So I'm not going to even dare venture into that, seriously. But thank you for the high regard, but I'm not that good. So apologies.
So this is from Justin Mohan. We've kind of touched on the first one. He's asking about the exclusives from Machina and other repaints. Would you ever? Oh, he asked about the Transformers as well. Are you going to expand to original vehicles and characters, or will it just follow the original M.A.S.K stuff? I think you touched on possibly doing some original characters.
Yeah.
And with that, would we see new cars and vehicles, or would it just be the figures?
No, new vehicles. I mentioned. Yeah.
Okay. And then can we get an update on what's happening with the Masters of the Verse stuff?
Yeah. So, like I said, we are we have heeded the advice of fans, and whatever that you saw at PowerCon, there was actually 1/12 scale, 6-inch. We have already scaled it up to the Masterverse size, so that people who collect He-Man, they want it to be the same height as Masterverse, not smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the development of what we're doing right now. So, yeah.
Nice. And then any new IP and original IPs on the horizon for this year?
I think we have had a pretty hectic year already, so we will say no to that. Yeah.
So I think that was the last one.
Okay.
So Ace, I mean, we've spent some time together tonight. I really appreciate it. What do you want to tell the fans and about supporting ramen? Well, first, where can they find you? How can they find you? What's going on? How can more people be aware of the awesome stuff you guys are putting out?
Well, first of all, the fans are already aware, and I just need you to share it with your other friends as much as possible because I still believe that ramen is not as well known in the collector space. So we still need to put effort to make more people know about ramen because if we can actually get more people buying our stuff, we can reduce the prices, and that's the main aim. We are currently sort of handcuffed to low quantity productions, so our prices are high. We understand that. If we can get to anywhere near what, let's say, Mythic Legions or Action Force is doing, which is minimum 5,000 pieces produced, we can definitely bring the price down. So until that day, we're still going to work hard, and you can find us, on Facebook at Ramen Toy. You can find us on Instagram at IG_Ramen Toy, which there are many messages on IG. So I also have to take time to address those. I don't post as much on IG, mostly on Facebook. And then obviously on YouTube is Ramen Toy on YouTube. And our website obviously is ramentoy.com. So do find us there, and then share as much as possible, and that's the best we can ask for is to share. We will grow with the community, but we won't foresee ourselves overgrowing because you just lose the interaction. I'm already having trouble addressing everybody's messages and emails. Imagine if that grew, that would even be worse, right? So let's keep it, a close knit community. We don't need to really grow that much because as long as our prices are, we can bring it down a little bit, will be good. We don't want to bring it down all the way to like mass market level because we will never want to be doing 10,000 pieces of one thing. That also means more stress in terms of QC, in terms of defects and stuff like that. So it's a unique situation, and we hope that this might be the advent of more companies like us, where it's indie, it is within a small size, you don't grow too big, and then we cater to this already niche community of collectors. Let's face it, we are graying, we're not getting any younger, and the number of people joining in this group is actually not that much, unless I'm mistaken. So yeah.
Well, I know for us, probably the worst, best decision I ever done was finding you guys, because it has definitely affected my wallet. So I really appreciate. James, any other questions from your end?
No, I think, you pretty much answered everything. It's really cool to hear from somebody who's manufacturing these toys, once again, so I appreciate it. We always talk about, on the Transformers third party, we always talk about it, and we always wonder what's going on behind the curtain. So thank you again for moving that curtain a little bit for us to see what actually goes on in manufacturing these indie toys.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you for coming on, everybody. Please go out, support Ramen Toy, subscribe to the YouTube channel, buy some stuff. We need 5,000. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We need 5,000 people to subscribe to us and Ramen Toy if they don't have 5,000, and we need 5,000 to buy from them so I can get some more stuff. Ace, I will see you in Augusta at Joe Fest. And so thank you very much for coming on the channel. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bobby and James. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
As always, to all debates are one. We'll see you all next time.